It's time for us to find out how wrong we can be. This is the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast. My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter at Yankee Gunner. And welcome to Season 6 of the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast. And it is my absolute great pleasure to have you here. It means the world to us that you are here. We have a phenomenal season lined up, limited series ahead, post-match podcasts every week. You're going to get all the content you can handle, whether Arsenal make it worth our while or not. And I want to say on behalf of everyone in the podcast that we love you truly for being here, for watching the show grow together, and for hopefully a great season ahead, not just for the show and the community, but actually for Arsenal Football Club. The song you heard on the way in came from Roxy Arms Harris. There will be a new song every season. So if you hate this song, there'll be a new one next season. In fact, it's exactly like Arsenal Football Club. There's a new season every season. So if you hate the one that you just had, hope for a better one next season. But that's the one you're getting for now. And I love it, and I am thrilled to pieces to have the full boat here ready to give you predictions that we will literally put in ink, digital ink, that is, and have available all season of you. Last season, our predictions were up. Those will get taken down, replaced with these. So if you want to see how wrong we were last season, you're running out of time to do it, but you will be able to see how wrong we are this season. And here to be wrong with me today is Clive. You can find him on Twitter at ClivePFC. Hello, Clive.
Hello, hello.
And Paul. You can find him on Twitter at Pause My Pants. Hello, Paul.
Woohoo! 6 seasons of Arsenal Vision pre-season predictions. 6 seasons.
And Tim, you can find him on Twitter. It's Roberto. Hello, Tim.
Hello there. I thought for a second you said that Roxy Music had written...
yeah, I was quite impressed there for a while.
I was wondering about, do you know the song Virginia Plain? It has that that lyric, "Take me on a roller coaster," and that would have felt quite apt. But yeah, delighted with the actual
how's it
music
go
we've
again?
got. Don't get
Tim,
me wrong.
Could you hum it for us?
Take me on a roller coaster. That one.
Yeah, I'm going to be the lone man defending Roxy Harris, who actually writes our music, and say that we're thrilled and fortunate to have him writing our music.
There's no Roxy Music.
I mean, I beg to differ. Why are we crapping on our own people, for God's sakes? We can crap on our players. That's coming up next. Scott's on Twitter, _that_crap. Hello, Scott.
Yeah, I like how you just kind of blow by a lot of this banter and just, try to keep things on track.
If you want banter and waffle, you know where the Arscast is. You already listened to it. He has natural, genuine human interactions that are gratifying. We do not. That is not what we do. We get your privates shaved and give you bad predictions. We're here to do that now, and we are pressing forward. What we will do is we will literally run down the list. You're going to have some fixed options, and you're going to have to tell me what you think. And then we'll do, very briefly, we'll back our predictions on the first tier of these because they're sort of the big questions. As we get to the more granular questions, we will thin out the conversation so this doesn't last till mid-season. So, Clive, it's the biggest question of all, my friend, and we'll start with it.
What's
League
that?
finish.
This is the first year that I haven't said we'll finish first.
Plastic.
No, I always say top 4, but I've actually given us the first place outside of the top 4 and gone for 5th. Maybe slightly biased, driven by the fact that everyone's spending hundreds of millions and seem to be buying players for the first 11 while we are not. So I'm going to say 5th, and I'm sticking with it.
Okay. I guess what I would ask you just super quick is, would you regard it as success in the context of the 4 clubs I presume you expect to finish ahead of us being Liverpool, City, United, and Chelsea?
Yeah, that will be okay for me, based on where they are today. As we sit here on the 12th of August, I don't think I can do anything more than say 5th. If our squad was to change and a little bit of excitement come into our lives, then I may redress that to 4th, but 5th for now.
Okay, well, Tim, I'm here for your first place prediction. Is that what you're going with?
No, I'm going to disappoint you. I've gone for 5th as well. I mean, we're going to be in the area of the league of Leicester and Spurs, right? I do think us not being in Europe perhaps gives us a bit of an edge there. But it's much of a muchness between those 3 teams. And to be honest, 5th, 6th, 7th, who really cares? I can't really get excited about which specific position we finish in, but I just think without Europe, I've gone for 5th.
Interesting. Let's do this. I want to group these together, so I'm going to backtrack to you, Clive, real quick and just say, I see that you have us here at 66 points finishing 5th, so you expect the top 4 to be pretty strong then?
Yeah, I do. I do think because of no Europe, I think 66 is achievable. Although I'm normally very optimistic around the 68s to 70s, I've gone 66, and I think we're gonna end the season well. I think that's the key thing, and so I hope it all adds up in the end. But yeah, it's around that range. I do think Arsenal have historically struggled doing multiple competitions at the same time. I don't think we do big games well, particularly 2-3 in a week. But I think this once a week thing towards the end of the year could really, really help us. So that's why I've gone 66.
Okay, perfect. I just want to get that out there. And Tim, then I have it here. You can certainly say it yourself, but you have us on 64 points. So again, I mean, do you regard that as a fairly successful season in context?
Possibly. Like I said, I can't really get excited about that. I think, Elliot, where I am with this, 5th, 6th, 7th, who cares? For me, it's but it's as much about the journey as the destination this season. So if we kind of finish 6th and we drift along in 6th and do largely what we did last season and perhaps a little bit of variance just goes in our favour, I won't be too excited by that. If, like, next May we finished 5th and I see Smith Rowe's getting better and Saka's getting better and Martinelli's playing more games and woohoo, we're going to get rid of a few players this year finally, then maybe I'd be more I'd be more optimistic. Like, if I feel like we're building towards challenging those 4 clubs, then that's something different than a bit like when Spurs got 6 under Mourinho and you didn't they just got it because no one else did, effectively. So for me, it's as much. That's what I'm looking for this season. I'm looking for a journey more than a destination.
Fair enough. I think for a lot of people, we might wind up then, if that happens, having the same battles we always have about whether the process is more important than the results. And at some point, those two are going to have to arrive at a nexus. But Paul, what do you got for league finish endpoints?
I'm going to go with 6th and 61 points. I think we should get 5th. I just don't think we will. I think, like other teams do league finishes too, I think Leicester City is just better prepared going into this season than we are, for example. I think it's going to be a tougher season, a more competitive season all round, including for the top 4 against the other top 10, 11, 12, your Villas, your Leeds, maybe not your Evertons, maybe your Evertons will be stronger than they were last season. And it's going to be tough to scramble points. I think we should be good enough for 5th and even nibbling away at 4th if, say, Liverpool don't do as well as they should do or get off to a bumpy start. But I just think there's too many variables here, and unfortunately we're not quite as ready for the start of the season as we should be. We'll have the AFCON, which will cost us Thomas Partey, and maybe Lokonga can pick that up a little bit. Other teams will lose players too, but we may be very dependent on the Thomas Partey midfield axis. So the main reason is I just don't feel comfortable we're going to be ready to go at the start of this season the way we should do. And I think 6th is what we'll get, but it should have been 5th.
You realize in the spreadsheet you've written 9th.
You realize that while I was watching the spreadsheet, you changed your number, and I thought downwards, and I'm like, will he think it's funny if I move mine down to 9th? And you didn't.
Well, I was hoping you would say 9th because then I could feel better. What I'm doing is I'm hedging. I'm looking at the spreadsheet and I'm like, how low can I go where I don't look like I'm just being a jerk? And when you were 9th, I felt safe going a little more conservative.
Well, I'm back to 6th again, which was my real number. But when I saw you hovering over the spreadsheet, I'm like, screw that, I'm going lower than him.
Well, all right, let's let Scott settle the argument. I'll do mine last. Scott, what is your league finish and predicted points?
So I've got us at 5th with 64 points, but I think when you kind of look at things, there's a tier where Manchester City is the best team, and then I think that 2nd through 4th is all about the same. So I think you got Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, all about that same level for me, and then I think 5th through 7th are all about that same level. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's anywhere between 5th and 7th. I think we'll be right in the low 60s. Maybe if we're fortunate, we can get into the high 60s. but I think that's about perfect for where we're going to be. To me, I think the success is really, let's see this as a consolidating our position situation. Try to be able to actually see progress for where we want to go for next year. Be able to hopefully get back into Europe and make this a stepping stone season for next year where we're fighting to be in the top 4. I think that's kind of where I see this one going.
I think that's fair. I'll stick with my guns. I have a 6th on 61 points, and I really, really labored over this one because the part of me where hope springs eternal says 5th with a chance for 4th if one of the top 4 falter. But I just look at the squad right now, and I can only make this judgment right now, and I say, we are currently not better in the first 11 than we were last season. And we start the season without Partey, so arguably worse. We don't have an Odegaard, so worse. Ceballos, most people didn't like him, but he was in the squad. He's not in the squad anymore. We added Ben White and replaced David Luiz. And while I think Ben White may be an upgrade defensively over David Luiz at this point in his career, I certainly think David Luiz as a passer and a progressive ball player is as good as what Ben White can bring. So I have to look at it and say, do I think that we are better? The arguments for us being better as the squad is currently constructed would be incremental improvement in the young players, Smith Rowe, Saka, Martinelli. But Saka and Martinelli have just joined us, so they may get off to a slower start. The arguments for us being worse are the elimination of players like Odegaard and the aging of some of the players that are critical. I think Xhaka had maybe his best season ever for us last season. Can he repeat that, or will we see the Xhaka that has been more frequently criticized? Aubameyang, Lacazette, obviously they're not getting any younger, as we know. Willian is being ground into dust as we speak. So those are questions. I think at right back we have 4, but not 1. So there's a lot of questions, and many of them may get answered between now and September 1st and change the way I feel about this. The interesting thing is 61 points would not have gotten us top 6 last season, but last season had a pretty high point total for those top finishers. I think we might see something a little more representative of what it's been in the past, and I think 61 will be good enough for 6th. I think if you ask me range of outcomes, I would say that finishing 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th all feel equally plausible to me, 25, 25, 25, 25%. So if we finish 8th, it won't shock me. If we finish 5th, it won't shock me. Lower or higher would be a surprise in my view. So the goal then is to finish in the top part of that range of outcomes. Somebody feels like they need to argue with me about that. Who was it?
Yeah, I was just thinking actually, it's actually, I'm not sure if it's sad or we just all recognise where we are as a squad. I spoke to a director of football at a proper club, a professional club once, and he said that they split a squad up into 3 sections, right? So thriving, striving, and surviving, right? So the thriving is the top third, the striving the middle third, surviving the bottom third. We've got far too many trying to survive at the club, and that's the issue that's blocking us from adding people who can make the club thrive in the top third. When you look at Manchester United, they just bought a couple of players, or about to buy a couple of players. They're in the top third of their squad. That's what you do in recruitment. You always put people in the top third of your squad, and so your bottom third fall out and you lift your levels. We're in a different place. We're trying to put backfills in place to fill holes before we can get the people who are surviving, waiting for payoffs out the door. It's actually quite sad that not one of us has put us in the top 4. I think it's indicative of where we are, and there's no real debate. And I think it's a bit of a shame, really, but at least we're being realistic, so it is what it is.
I mean, the fact is, it doesn't make you a better fan to say we're going to finish top 4 and set an expectation that doesn't look fair to the squad we've assembled. Wouldn't be fair to the manager at this point. I think you listed the 3 categories. I think it's worth pointing out not every club works like that, Clive. The thriving, striving, and surviving. I mean, a lot of clubs will have those 3 groups, but there are clubs that have other groups, like Spurs have thriving, striving, surviving, and diving. So, I think it is important to recognize that there are often other categorizations. Let's move off of that and on to what I think may be the determining factor of whether we overachieve or underachieve what we've just predicted, and that is goals scored. Let's go reverse this time. Scott, where do you have us in terms of goals scored? The big issue from the last 2 seasons, really, where I believe we finished with 58 and 57 goals scored or thereabouts. Scott, with a mute button challenge. The mute button challenge already failed. First season. There we go. All right.
Hey, I mean, we're still in preseason, we gotta get these last kinks out here, right? So I have us at 60 points or 60 goals scored. So that's a small improvement. I think that we'll see some minor improvements from our forwards definitely. I think we can get some more from Saka and Smith Rowe. So yeah, I see a little bit of us getting a little bit more there. So
out of curiosity, in terms of is that what we model out to, like in your statistical models, or is that just your sense?
And I'm kind of pushed us into the 75th percentile of these things with my predictions because I am trying to be optimistic and positive.
So what would the 50th percentile be?
I think we're right about the same as last year, about 58.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go with Paul. How many goals do you see us scoring this season? Is it going to be a high-flying Centurion season for us?
That is a great question. Let me bring up my spreadsheet. I'm going with goals scored 63. What were we at, 55 or something last
58.
season?
Mm-hmm.
58. Oh, okay. So we had 6 penalties. We'll come to penalties later on. Penalties.
Sorry, you were right. It was 55. I apologize. I think it was 58 the season before. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I think everybody might lose a couple of penalties this year compared to their last season totals, for example. But mostly, I see Pepe getting more goals, Martinelli getting more time, more goals. Smith Rowe getting a couple more, Saka getting a couple more. I'm not convinced Aubameyang or Lacazette will get more than they did last year. They might, depending on allocation of time and minutes, it might be a different guy getting them. But mostly that's where I'm looking for the extra goals from. Some obviously additional opportunity creation. By having functioning wings, Tierney and hopefully the right side cranking for most of the season, Tierney with his backup, so that we have constant creation instead of having off periods of the season, should get us up to that level of 63. I'd love us to be at 68 or so, which seemed to be a good number for kind of just getting into the top 4 last year. In and around the top 4, 68 looked like the number. But 63 just seems realistic unless we do something different with our strikers and bring in a Tammy Abraham at the last moment, and that shakes things up. I think it's got to come from Pepe banging in a few more, and then the other lads just stepping up and adding a couple, and some additional chance creation.
I would say that the challenge for me with predicting goals is that I think it is a lot more about the system creating more opportunities than the players getting better themselves, because I don't regard the goals we scored the last season as representative of the level of talent in the squad. I regard it as representative of a system that didn't generate enough threat. So if that makes sense. Tim, do you have a sense of where we're headed from the goals? I mean, you must have a sense because you've written it in the spreadsheet. So why don't I just say, how many goals do you have us scoring?
Yeah, I had 66. I think your point there, Elliot, is absolutely spot on. That there are goals in this team. It's just we don't create enough for them. And, look what happened last season, right? First half of the season, we couldn't score at all. And then we bring in Smith Rowe and Ødegaard, and that becomes not a non-issue, but less of an issue. That wasn't because Smith Rowe and Ødegaard were scoring goals, right? It was because it improved our creative game, and voila, all of a sudden we had a bit more threat. Like, there's goals in Lacazette, Pepe and Aubameyang. I've gone for 66, which I think is admittedly probably the most optimistic outlook. I'll give you my rationale. I think Saka will score more. I think Smith Rowe will score more. I think Aubameyang will score more. Not loads more, but more. And I'm going on the idea that Martinelli is going to be fit all season. Now, admittedly, any one of these guys could get injured and be out for the season, and then you lose those goals. I think that's slightly less likely without Europe. With fewer games, I'm kind of expecting, perhaps foolishly, fewer injuries. So I do think a lot of those guys will get a lot of minutes. And so there's a few of those things going into it. But the caveat I'll put in is I'm saying 66 on the very solid assumption that we sign another creative attacking midfielder, which I think we will. I've always felt that would shake out in the last week of the window, and I think Arsenal have always felt that too. I think we'll get Ødegaard or Maddison in the last week, and that's the assumption that this is on. If we don't, then I would revise that right down by 7 or 8 goals at least. So I'm doing this on the proviso that there are goals in the team. There are a couple of guys who can score more, but we need to kind of buttress our creative game a little bit.
Yeah, and I think I totally agree that we need that player to come in. I still think that player coming in, I mean, we had Odegaard last season. He was in and out of the team and only for half the season. And the attack did improve, but we still know that it didn't improve to the level it probably needs to. So maybe a little from column A, a little from column B. Clive, what do you have in terms of goals scored this season?
Yeah, I had 66. For much of the reasons that Tim and Paul have spoken to already. I do think there's opportunities. When people say about the system and talent, I grind my teeth a little bit. I think we overrate our talent, but I think there's more we can do with the mobility and rotation of our talent up front. I think I'd like to see a bit more freedom of movement. That's the thing for me. If we were to buy into that a little bit more, buy into a pressing game, which it's hard to see in pre-season that you can do once the league starts. You don't really over-press in pre-season. You just don't. But when the league starts, you can do that. And I think we're going to play in people's halves a lot more. You can sense that just from watching the pre-season that we're trying to do that. So if we do that, I think the goals will go up naturally, and obviously the ages of our young players and ones that we all love and all our dreams are in, they're only going to go one way regarding to improvement and scoring and finishing and creating. So you put all that together with hopefully 1 or 2 signings that we are dreaming of, I think we're going to go upwards by 10 or so goals and see where that takes us. I think it will cost us at the back door. So, I mean, that's why the points are not where they could be. But, yeah, 66-ish, that's fine for me, and that'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would regard that as a big success, given that we're coming off, and I want to clarify, 55 last season, 56 the season before. I am going to go with 57 this season. I mean, it's an improvement. I don't see the system improving enough to create the volume of chances we need, and I don't think we have players. I think Aubameyang is still fine, but maybe not elite. I think Lacazette is not an elite goal scorer. I think Bukayo Saka is an extraordinary player who is never going to be an elite goal scorer. I don't think that's his superpower, and I don't think it needs to be. I think Smith Rowe has some end product, but not elite end product. And I look at Arsenal and I say, when have we ever really hit the goals tallies we needed when we didn't have someone who was really that dominant scorer, that dominant player up front? And I don't know that we have that right now. And we may go into the market and get a striker who can get 20 goals this season. That changes a lot. But if we think Oba's now a 14 or 15 goal guy, and Lacazette's a 9 or a 10 goal guy, and Saka's a 6 or 7, and Smith Rowe's a 6 or a 7, and Martinelli, he's not going to play a ton, maybe he'll be a 5 or 6. You just do the math, and you don't come out at the number of goals we need unless the system changes enough where Arsenal start creating tons and tons of chances. And that could happen, but it was 56 2 seasons ago. It was 55 last season, and the attacking talent hasn't improved enough to overcome what I regard as a system that does not have a solution for creating enough chances yet. I think this goes hand in hand with Arteta's job on the line this season, right? Because wherever we finish, top 4 notwithstanding, getting a lot of goals and being a better attacking team will go a long way to people having their concerns about him allayed, and the opposite will do the opposite. So I'll go with 57 goals, a small improvement, maybe a slightly better attack offset by the attacking players who we rely on for goals sort of aging out of their best years. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong about it. I mean, I'd love to watch some exciting attacking football. I think something has to change for that to come to pass. But that's okay. Maybe our new identity is defensive football. So, Clive, how many goals are we going to concede?
I've gone 40. I'm not very good at prediction stuff. I've gone 40, and I'm not sure how many we conceded last year, so I just put 40 down. And there's nothing behind it apart from the fact that I think we've got a better first defensive pairing potentially, but we're yet to see it. And I'd like to see a different player playing at right back, and I'm hoping that all happens.
By the way, we only conceded 39 last season, so 40 is pretty darn close.
That's cool. That's cool. So, yeah, 40. I say 40 and go from there. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about that, really. I think the midfield how can we be much different? The midfield looks the same. Most of the defenders look the same, apart from one new guy. And the way we play looks very much the same. So really, we should put the same numbers down as last year. But yeah, I've just gone for 40.
Okay. I mean, I don't. It's so hard with defending because, again, I think it's system oriented, and if we are going to try to score more, we may have to concede more. I mean, 3 seasons ago when we were back in the 70-ish range, I think, 73 goals scored, we had 51 conceded, right? So there's a give and a take there when you go to try to be more attacking, and we may see some of that. Tim, what do you have for goals conceded?
I have 44. I think the defence will maybe be broadly the same. I do think there was a little bit of I didn't look at us last season and think we're the 3rd best defence in the league. I do think there were other reasons behind that. I think in trying to get better in attack, we will inevitably concede maybe a few more goals, particularly if we're playing a slightly higher line. So, I think actually that's worse than last year, but I will swallow that. If I've got us scoring 11 more goals, so if we score 11 more goals and concede 5 more goals, like broadly, obviously depending on the allocation of those goals, I think broadly that's okay. And I think Arteta's job depends on us attacking better, and that might mean just letting a few others in, maybe a little bit of variance thrown in as well.
Paul, you've gone the doomiest of the group, as usual. Goals conceded, my friend?
Well, it's really an optimistic doom. I'm with Tim. We're going to attack more. We're going to play with a little higher line. Ben White is not the most aerially gifted centre-back on the planet. He will make up for it in other areas. I'm very happy that we have him and the way we'll play. But we were a very successful defensive team last year due to shape, due to being boring in our own third. We didn't intercept, we didn't tackle, we just kind of hunkered down, kept compact, gave them the wings, waited for them to hopefully cough up the ball, recycle, bring it up the pitch, and we'll be more aggressive this year. And I think we might be a little surprised just how much weaker we are defensively when we open it up a little bit. But the gain will be on the goals for, so I'm all for it. But I think we will see our defensive frailties exposed a lot more, because I don't think, in large part, we didn't concede a lot of stupid goals for the most part. I know we think we had clown shoes on, but we didn't give away penalties. We didn't give away. We gave away a few stupid own goals, but
we didn't give anything up on set pieces, and in the preseason that looks set to change.
Yeah, so maybe we'll hold the set pieces thing. That's arguably an organizational thing. I just think we're gonna twist the risk reward thing, and we'll realize we had some frailties that weren't as apparent last year. So yeah, 45.
I have 45 as well. I will just say so. Okay. I will just use all of Paul's answers. I think if we do a little worse on set pieces, and when we come to my flop of the season, this will sort of help explain itself. I think there will be a bit of a fallback in goals. And I also think if this high line that we saw in preseason is what we're going to try, it may ultimately bear fruit, but I think it could have some growing pains, especially with Chelsea and City, 2 of the first 3 games. There could be a bit of a heavy toll paid there. Scott, what do you got for goals conceded?
I got us at 42. So, I mean, I definitely see a little bit of a regression from last year. And I think you look at the numbers, and I think this is pretty well echoed. So I think we're going to change slightly the style of the play. I think that we'll also play at a faster pace, because I think that's one of the things that really helped us last year to not concede as much, but also hurt our attack, is that we just played at a very slow pace. I think we had the 2nd slowest pace of any team in the league. And when there's just not enough possessions between either teams, neither team can score. So I think that we'll actually play a little bit faster, and I think that should hopefully get us more goals scored. But I think it'll also mean we concede a few more. I think we also were a bit fortunate in overperforming the XG numbers. But I hope maybe we see slightly an improvement with a settled back 2. So hopefully we kind of pick our 2 main center backs, and that's it. And we have a partnership instead of it kind of being a rotating show over the overall season. So yeah, I kind of see us a little bit of regression, and then hopefully a little bit of improvement to get us to 42 goals.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's also worth pointing out, David Luiz can be a clown, but he also cannot be a clown, and he's a very experienced player who surely would have been a help for a lot of very inexperienced players. This season, I mean, Ben White is the anchor of the defense at, 23? Gabriel is young. Holding is not particularly young, but not particularly reliable. Same with Pablo Mari. So while I like Ben White and I think I like Gabriel, there's inexperience in our first choice center back pairing. They've literally never played together once, never practiced together once, never trained together. Center back pairings are pairings for a reason. They are partnerships. And that partnership's going to have to develop. And it's going to have to do it quickly because I don't think people want to see a whole lot of Pablo Mari, at least based on how his preseason wrapped up. So, okay, that's goals conceded.
Preseason, Elliot.
Yeah, of course. He's going to be fine. Pablo Mari's going to be fine. Everybody says that. Top scorer. I will start since, why not? I go with Aubameyang, but before you get excited, you will hear later how many I expect from him. The good news is there's some very, very good teams that didn't have any very big goal scorers last season. And what was Manchester City's top goal scorer? Was it
Gundogan?
Gundogan with like 9 goals or 8 goals? Something ridiculous.
11.
Was it a lot more than I said?
It was 13.
3.
Yeah.
Okay, 13. Well, the point is the team that won the league and scored a ton of goals, their top scorer had 13 goals, which is fine. I think Chelsea, as you've pointed out to me, Tim, Jorginho was their leading goal scorer because he takes penalties, but that was like 9 goals?
7.
7 goals. There I am. The good thing about statistics is they're really just how you feel. But the point is, you don't need a 20-goal scorer, it would seem, to be a pretty decent team. I don't think we'll have one, but I do think Oba will be our leading goal scorer. Scott, who do you have?
I got it. I got Oba too.
Yep. Okay, Paul, who do you have?
I did have Pepe, and then I'm thinking, but who gets to take our penalties? And it's probably going to be Aubameyang, so I put Aubameyang. But in open field play, if you like, I would have gone with Pepe.
Isn't it also possible, just to be clear before we get Clive and Tim's, is it possible that Oba won't go to the AFCON and Pepe will? Because that would certainly have an impact, I would think. Does anybody have any insight into that they might be able to share?
I assume they both go, wouldn't they?
It's only 2-3 games anyway. Don't stress about that.
Well, yeah, assuming they come back ready to go. Okay, Clive, who do you have?
I hedged my bets, and I went for Pepe and Aubameyang, same. And
just to be clear, you only get credit for that being right if they are on the exact same number at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So you haven't hedged your bet; you've actually made your life harder.
Yeah, I think I think this is the way to go. This is an interesting one, probably one for another podcast, but I think it's time to get these two closer together. If that means moving Pepe off the side into the centre spaces, then we need to do it. You spoke yesterday, Elliot, about getting the most from this squad. I just don't think I can take the third season watching Pepe receiving it on a touchline, doing one little pass and knocking it back to Bellerin and running into a space where he can't get the ball back. We can't. If you're a coach, you can't allow it to happen again. You got to get some freedom movement from this guy. And our 2 best, most dangerous players around the box are those 2. So why not get them closer to the box and support them with creativity from the sides? It's just a simple tweak, and it could produce a lot if we were to do it, because they both switch on in those centrals there. And so put them there, So that's why I did that, so I can have that discussion. So I hope we do it, because we need to get a lot from this squad, and it isn't going to be. If we're going to do the same as we always did, we can just cut and paste numbers from last year. Seriously.
Let's not do that. Tim, who's your leading scorer for us?
Yeah, I put Pepe in the spreadsheet, but I'm rethinking it just because I think maybe Aubameyang will just play more games, because that left wing spot isn't absolutely locked down by anyone, whereas it looks like Pepe's competing with Saka, unless Pepe moves over to the left wing. So, I really think it's take a number between those two. I think in an ideal world, it will be Martinelli, and Martinelli will come in and he'll rip the shirts off one of their backs and say, "You're yesterday's news. I'm in town now."
I'm announcing myself.
Yeah. That would be the ideal. Really, if it was him, I don't see that. So I put Pepe. I'm going to change it to Aubameyang just because I think he'll just play more games.
Yeah, and that's certainly reasonable. So I will change it in the spreadsheet for you. Player of the season, Tim. Who you got?
I've gone big here. I've gone for Thomas Partey.
Is that just to make up for the fact that you feel like you were hard on him last season? You want people to like you again?
Hold on. How did I miss that? Tim, you just doing that to make up.
So here's the thing. So I think I was like a little bit hard on him last season. I kind of think justifiably, with the caveats that I think he was good. and that I think there's lots to work with there. Obviously, I think this prediction is largely dependent on his fitness. I just think if he plays like 30 games in the Premier League, I do think he'll kill it. I really do. And I think we're crying out for something so much there that everyone will notice it. I really, really do. I think people will go mad for Thomas Partey if he can put those games together. And I know like people are really bored of Granit Xhaka, and I completely understand. I think Xhaka and Partey looked really good in the second half of last season. I really did. And I think our boredom of Xhaka has clouded some of that maybe in our assessment. I can see that being a really good partnership. And the way player of the season goes, right, Xhaka's not going to get it because he's been here for 5-6 years and everyone's bored to the back teeth of him. I think it will be Partey. I do think Partey will have... he'll have a really good season, and just because it's been a long time since we've had a central midfielder have a really good season, I think everyone will know about it.
I just want to be clear, though. We are picking who we think will actually be the player of the season, not who will win the fan vote. Just in case that changes.
Yeah, but I think that will be about right, yeah.
Okay, cool. Clive, who is our player of the season, in your view?
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with what Tim said there. And I will say, if you look around our partnerships in our team, if you were to pick one out and say which is the most elite partnership we have, that centre midfield is the one, whether you like it or not. It just is. And so my player of the season, I went for Saka. I think I went for him last year, I'm not sure. But I went for Saka because I think he's going to go supernova again this year. And if he stays injury-free, I think we're going to be begging him to sign a contract by Christmas. That's what I think, and I'm already scared. I'm already scared that he won't and doesn't have to.
You leave the worrying to me, buddy. I got this under control.
I don't worry about too much in life, but I worry about this because I'd hate to think Arsenal are not able to accelerate their rebuild, which you all know is what's required to make this kid feel like this is the only place I want to be. I know there are clubs out there that are just waiting in the background with money that growing on trees, literally, and we may not be able to be that club, but we can be the best version of Arsenal we can be, which we're not at the moment. I just hope we can speed this up, and that's not always in our control. But what is in our control, we stop making dumb mistakes and we support these people properly. So I'm worried, but I just hope he keeps going the way he goes, as we all do.
I'd just like to say on my behalf that I don't feel my dumb mistakes are within my control. Paul, who do you have as player of the season?
I'm going for Ben, player of the season, White.
You mean £50 million Ben White is his full name, please?
Yes, but also player of the season at Leeds and then at Brighton. I think when I look across the panoply, I don't know if that even applies here, of options here, like Saka may have a very good season and still not be player of the season because he could be a little tired, a little jaded. We've kind of settled on our expectations. I definitely think Partey's a great shout if he stays fully fit and really kicks in fully. But I wasn't really that torn. I think Ben White has the great chance because he's always fit. He'll play every game. And he's a super talent, and he's new and fresh to the eye, that he has some advantages in this department. Plus, when it comes to the fan vote, apparently the Leeds supporters voted for Ben White when he was at Brighton, which is why he won the Fans Player of the Year. So
that's
then we'll
taking
have
a page out of the Arsenal book of just dominating the online.
It's perfect, isn't it? So now I think Leeds and Brighton fans will vote for him in our fans' pick. So he'll get that vote too. So
to be clear, though, that's not what we're picking.
No,
you think it'll be right?
We'll try not to let it influence us.
Here's a question,
White.
Though. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for a defender to be the player of the season if you're a big club, because I just think it gets overlooked. Like, I'm trying to think, can you name a center back who would have rightfully been regarded as our player of the season over the last decade? Like, I'm not sure I can. Not to say that we haven't had a couple good seasons. Was Koscielny ever a player of the season, though?
He was worthy of it once or so. Yeah. But the thing about White, though, is...
Did Vermaelen win it when he scored all of his goals?
Yeah, well, if Vermaelen won it that season, it's because of his goal scoring, so that's sort of disqualifying.
I think the thing that's different with White is he's just eye-catching. He's not just a defender. In fact, I often wonder if he's a defender.
That's another issue that may cost him in the vote. Scott, who do you have as your player of the season?
I've got Tierney down as the player of the season. For me, I think this is one where I think without Europe, he's going to be able to play 30-plus Premier League games, or at least I'm hopeful. I think we can all see just the importance he has in our attack, especially on the left-hand side. So I think this is a year that he really takes a step forward. I think next year he might be in line for, or at least when Aubameyang leaves, I think he's stepped up to be the future captain, and I think that this is going to be a pathway along that. So I think he's probably going to be our most important player.
In our merch shop, avpodcastshop.com, we have some phenomenal artwork done by Brandon that you can buy as a print, a shirt, or a mug, or a hat, or whatever, for the future Captain Tierney. And it's quite excellent what he did. I actually think what he did for Saka was really cool. The funny thing is, Scott, you had 2 picks that allowed me to change 2 of my picks because I wanted to make sure Tierney was nominated here. And because you did, I actually went with Smith Rowe. If these are stocks, I am buying Smith Rowe stock. I want to get in before it goes supernova. I think Smith Rowe is a sensational player. And that's not to say that like Saka isn't or Martinelli isn't, but I think that Smith Rowe, just looking at his physique now and his hunger to get end product. I mean, think about it. He came into a dysfunctional team on Boxing Day against Chelsea and immediately starts the upward movement. When he played, we played well. He was trusted enough to be false 9 in a European semifinal. Shouldn't have been, to be fair. But it shows you what the manager thinks of him. They gave him the number 10 shirt. He looks great in preseason, and I just think he is ready to absolutely pop. So I have him as our best player this season because I think everything he does, the tempo quickening, the assists, the potential goal scoring, the one-touch passing, it's all the stuff that we don't have enough of in our team. That may get muted a bit depending on who we go into the market to get, if we indeed get someone like a Maddison or an Odegaard, but I still think he will be the kind of guy who just can't be taken out of the team. So I've gone for Smith Rowe, which means we can go for the more fun category of flop of the season. And I'll start. We can whip around the other direction. I was going to go, I think, for the one that Scott picked, but because he picked it, I'm going to go with Bernd Leno. Part of the reason I think we might concede more goals is because I think Bernd Leno might be worse. And you just look at it, he's had a weird preseason. I don't know if he totally wants to be at Arsenal. We're clearly trying to buy the guy who's going to replace him eventually, if not this season, then next season. It's a club and a player that don't seem to want each other. And he had a few shaky moments last season, and I just wonder if all of this pressure of playing out from the back, having to play short, a player who's a little unsettled, can he be? I mean, he's been, let's call it like it is, our player of the season or a candidate for it 2 seasons running in terms of some of the saves he's made. I do think he's a bit of a liability with the ball at his feet. And if he regresses at all, if his desire to leave the club presents itself at all in less effectiveness, or the knowledge that we're trying to replace him, or a guy we bring in who is sitting there waiting to take his shirt, could we see a problem? And I think goalkeeper's an easy flop of the season to pick because they don't have to screw up too many times for it to hurt you really, really badly. I mean, Manuel Almunia might have been fine in 80% of the games, but in the 20% he wasn't, it cost us big, big things. And people still remember him, I would say, not exactly fondly because of it. So I'll have Bernd Leno as our flop of the season. I hope it doesn't come to pass because the downside of picking the keeper is, unlike any other position, if that position flops, you can't achieve anything. Because you just can't concede cheap goals. So hopefully I am wrong about that, as I am about most things. Tim, who's your flop of the season?
Yeah, I actually like that Bernd Leno shout. Actually, I
not
should have
like
thought
it,
about
like it. But
well, yeah, yeah, like it as in adopt it. I might adopt it. But you've explained it well there. I'll be honest, I didn't think about this that much because there are quite a lot of players in this squad we all have quite a low opinion of. And therefore, it's difficult to define flop in that respect. And like Aubameyang had the flop season last season, and so no one's really backing him to do anything. For example, I just went for Cedric because that was the easy thing to do. But also, I could equally have put Bellerin in there.
Can you flop if you're already lying on the bottom?
Well, kind of. I just think. So the reason I think this will get exposed even more as a terrible, terrible deal is I do think that right back might become a bit of an issue. next year. Like we're doing a bit of make do and mend there at the moment, and we don't know for sure about Chambers. Has Chambers even signed a new contract? I thought his contract was up at the end of next year, or does he have like an option for another year?
I think there's
an
option in there, Tim. I think there's an option. That's why they're not stressing, but they haven't triggered the option yet, have they?
That's quiet. So I think Arteta's got 4 right backs and doesn't want any of them, is the situation. And I do think, to be fair to him, there is a reason for that. So I could equally have picked Bellerin. I probably could have equally picked Chambers. I do think Chambers will be okay there. So I don't think it's like a massive emergency, but I just put Cedric because I hate that deal, and I think it will get exposed even more.
Picking Cedric has a bit of the stop, he's already dead from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I do want to say we have a patron named Clarence who's quite active in the Discord. He's of Portuguese descent, and he should have gotten a trigger warning before this because he loves Cedric as he loves all the Portuguese players like they are his own children. Very displeased that we haven't signed Ruben Neves yet. So, Clive, who do you have as our flop of the season? I know this is hard for you to pick because at this time of year, they're all your children and you love them equally.
Yeah, I picked Holding. And again, not because I did try to think of somebody that didn't really flop last year. And the reason I picked him because I think White's going to take his position and we'll use one of the 2 left-footed centre-backs on the other side. Ben White will soon become, if he's not already, our most important defender very quickly. And Holding is a type of player that needs 2 or 3 games to get up to speed. And I'm not sure he's going to get it. And when he's not up to speed, he has shockers. And then he suddenly hits his speed and he reaches a 6.5 out of 10 steady standard. If we're under the pump, he's really good, right? So, but he needs a series of games, which he got last year, and I don't think he's going to get them this year. I think it's going to take him out of his rhythm and really affect how he plays. So that's why I put him down.
I now cede the floor to the man who returns from the Olympics with gold in mental gymnastics. Paul has picked his top scorer as flop of the season. Go, Paul.
Aubameyang.
Please, feel free. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Elliot thinks this is hilarious because I also picked Aubameyang as the likely top scorer. But then Elliot has a poor grasp of how probability works. It doesn't
damn
mean
right I do.
Probable.
There's 100% chance I have no idea how probability works.
It means it's the least likely thing. So, Aubameyang is clearly in 1 or 2 of the people who could be the top scorer, and he'll take the penalties. But to be a flop, you've got to fall from a height. He's as good a shout as anybody to fall. And both things can be true that he's equally likely. Will it both happen in the same season? No, but does that mean he's not the most likely to be a flop? Not necessarily. Could be 11% chance when everybody else is just 9% chance, but he's a 50% chance of being the top scorer. So
can I level with you?
I have a quick question for Paul here. So does your flop rating, was it off of what you're kind of imagining what his career heights were or what he was last year?
Well, here's my definition of a flop. At the end of the season, people say, man, he really flopped this season.
Yep. So I want to tell you something, Paul. You'll be shocked to hear this. I think Aubameyang's a fantastic shout. And I think your intellectual argument for him being top scorer and flop works perfectly for me because ultimately, if your 300,000 pound a week striker gets you 12 goals and finishes as top scorer, no one's going to go job done. No one's going to say, way to go, buddy. The fact is, Aubameyang is also a player who, if he's not scoring, I think most of us regard him as not doing a hell of a lot else. So if Aubameyang finishes with 12 goals, you can pretty well bet that he's had a bad season by most metrics and could still wind up top scorer. So I think it's really
look at the possibilities here. We might get another striker this window. That's not going to help him to have the world's greatest season necessarily. Lacazette may be the man in form. Pepe may kick on. Martinelli, like there's all sorts of people nibbling at his heels. He could very easily have an underwhelming season. And while we gave him a pass last season for all sorts of reasons, the difficulty, like he does that season again or worse, he's a flop.
Where was this lucid argumentation when you were screaming at me when I said we shouldn't re-sign him?
But I was against re-signing him.
No, I know. It's a joke. I needed the help. Scott, your flop of the season is one that I have some sympathy for. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I did have some troubles kind of coming to this because I don't want anybody on our team to be bad. I mean, as much as, I dislike some of our players, I'd like all of them to do well for Arsenal because...
Oh, for God's sake, Scott, grow a pair.
Yeah, come on.
All right, I picked Granit Xhaka as my flop of the season. Yes, so I did pick Granit Xhaka as my flop of the season. I guess my reasoning behind it is that I think that last year was probably the peak of Granit Xhaka. So I think there really is kind of only one where to go from here. I have very big concerns that a player that is kind of limited athletically, when he loses a step, can become unplayable. I have seen our style switch to something that isn't built necessarily around him. I think we are trying to gear things more towards Thomas Partey and where we have more athletic midfielders, and I just don't think he fits with that mold. I can't imagine him at this age really being part of a high-line, high-pressing team, and I think that's kind of the way we want to go. And I think if he's getting significant game time, it's going to be more situations where there's a lot of things that are going to accentuate his flaws and less things that are built around really bringing out the maximum in him. So I think that just based on where he was last year, I think he might have the highest to fall. Because I think if we go back to Paul's argument about, I think Willian should be our number one flop for everybody because I think he's going to be probably the most pay to performance thing. He's probably going to be the absolute worst. So
he will be the least return on investment.
Yeah. So to me, it's where he is last year and where our expectations are. I think that that's where I'm going with Xhaka.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would say that your point about Xhaka that I find compelling is I think last season was his best season at Arsenal. And I think it's maybe made us forget why we were sort of frustrated with him and what some of the flaws were. And if he goes back to being something more like what he used to be, but maybe even just a slight tick down from that, it'll feel horrible because he had actually gotten to a level that I think a lot of us probably regard as pretty good. So we'll just have to see if he holds on to that. Now, we're going to go with something called Surprise Player of the Season. I think last year we called it Breakout Player. It's essentially who's the player who winds up being really influential in a positive way that maybe exceeds the expectation going into the season that we have. Now, based on the fact that 4 of the 5 of us have picked the same one, maybe he's not exceeding his expectation. Maybe he will just reach his expectation. I'm going to start with you, Scott, going back the other direction and just say you put 2. You put Odegaard and Sambi. I understand why you put Odegaard. We don't have him now. Let's just operate using the ones that are in the team. So you don't have to explain why Odegaard to me. Just give me the Sambi logic.
Because I think just he looks a lot more ready to play than what I initially expected. I had really high expectations of what he could become, but I didn't really expect him to really kind of break into the season until really the latter half of the year. I think he's going to get some opportunities early with Partey out, and I think that this might be a thing that kind of dovetails with my Xhaka as a flop. I think that we might see a lot more Partey and Sambi together, and I think that that's going to be a bit of a surprise from kind of what my initial expectations were.
Yeah, I saw him as an heir apparent to Partey. I hope he will start against Brentford tomorrow. God, I can't believe it's tomorrow. And I think if he's good early, he may prove to be someone that we want to keep in the team because of some of the things he can do that Xhaka can't. I picked him for the same reasons you did. Tim, did you pick him for different reasons or the same?
Yeah, largely the same, but a lot of it was also just because I didn't think there was an awful lot of other choice, just because the team hasn't changed very much, and we know these players, and I just made the calculation. I am excited by Sambi and what he brings, and I think he's something different, and I mean good different. Like, he does some things that lots of our other midfielders don't do, but also I was just making the calculation that he's new and he might play some games, because I'm not sure we could say that about Tavares, for example. So I can't pick him, and everyone else, I think we know quite a lot about them. So that's partially why I've gone for him as well.
Paul, why did you pick Sambi?
Yeah, look, based on preseason and based on the bit we know about him, he's played quite a bit at a reasonable level for Anderlecht. He looks ready, and I think he's going to get a really good look in between the start of the season, AFCON, and maybe Thomas Partey having the occasional niggles tragically. I also think that's why I I don't buy Scott's flop of the year. I think Sambi and Partey insulate Xhaka from the risk. He mightn't have as good a year, but I think that should insulate him from being an actual flop. With either of those two guys, we've a functioning midfield, which will then make Sambi look like a bit of a hero too, because now it's one thing to be good when all around you sucks, but actually we're functioning because of him. That's why I think he can be eye-catching here. He looks ready. It's only pre-season, but he's been good before he joined us by all accounts, so it might be real.
I think my only pushback slightly on the insulating Xhaka thing is I think Xhaka is so nailed down as a first-choice guy that for Sambi and Partey to develop into a partnership that would start a lot of games, Xhaka would have to tail off to a level where
I think you misunderstood, though. Like, it'd be Sambi and Xhaka or Partey and Xhaka. Was that clear?
I see what you meant. When you said insulate, I thought you meant in the sense that he might play instead of him in some cases. No. But I see. Okay. So, Clive, your surprise player of the season is an interesting one because if you wind up being right, there are two things that I believe will be true. One, I will become one of Arteta's biggest fans. Two, I think our season will be a lot better than I suspect. I think it is a little bit of a litmus test because I think one of the challenges of this whole season for Arteta is to find a way to get this player as much playing time as he can. And your breakout player is?
Martinelli. And I don't think, obviously, he's had a stalling year. And he was just coming back into form. He's done the Olympics, he's kept training, and he's come straight back in. So he's fit, ready to go. He's not overplayed because we were very cautious with him post-Christmas when he tweaked his knee in the Man City warm-up. So I think, like we all do, we all are hopeful for him. But I just got a feeling that he's gonna transform us a little bit up there. And there's so much desire in this player to succeed that eventually you can't stop it. Do you know what I mean? And I think this is his time now. This is his year. I think there's too many goals, there's too many assists, there's too many correct decisions, there's too much high pressure intensity, there's too much pressing, there's too much to sit it on the sideline and give it 12 minutes at the end of a game. And if he gets more starts in the right games, I think he can build a level of confidence and maybe transform how we look up there. And so, yeah, I've got lots of favourite players in those areas. So I'm not trying to pick a team. I just think energy is going to be our friend this year. We're going to play in other people's halves. And I think he's got a lot of that. And so I see him as being one of the biggest improvements of the front kids that we know and love already.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that just feel like Arteta doesn't like Martinelli. And I think one thing that we have to accept, and I need to remind myself of this as well, a meniscus tear is a major injury at a young age. You have to be really careful with it. He was only even eligible to come back and start playing in late December, early January, really. And I remember I said on this podcast, my big fear is that Arteta needs a lifeline and will overplay Martinelli coming back from a meniscus tear. He didn't. He shouldn't get ripped for that. He should get praised for it. And he's been effusive in his praise of him. It may be the case that Arteta wants to use Martinelli more than any of us realize. Now, I do wonder if we could have maybe kept him from going to the Olympics, but that's, it's emotional, it's political, it's a little bit different. The fact is,
for him. I think it's good for him, that experience. I think, well, Tim may know more, but, in Brazil, that's a big thing, right? And he's part of that squad, so I think
scored a penalty, won a gold medal?
Yeah, I think it's great for his mentality. He's a winner, so there you go.
Yeah, so I mean, we may be a little off base, and the fact is, I think if he plays a lot, I think he is someone who, and I realize I've gotten it wrong with young players in the past. I think he has the ability to really be elite quickly with his end product, and it's something we desperately need. So here's what we'll do. We're going to take a break, and in part two, we're going to rapid fire some over-unders on numbers and scenarios, and we'll go rapid fire through some other things. And at the end of the pod, once I post this, I will upload this spreadsheet so that everyone can keep track of it and laugh at us all season. We have a really, really spicy question buried in the part two section, though, so you'll not want to miss that. So we'll take a break. We'll come back with the spicy over-under stuff after this. Stay with us. There's a specialist for just about everything, right? When my car breaks down, I go to a mechanic. When there's a problem with my shower, I call a plumber. When I shower. So when you want to get your uneven, crooked teeth fixed, you see an orthodontist. They're the specialists. And that's what sets Candid, the invisible, comfortable, and removable aligners above the rest. While poorly reviewed or insanely priced clear aligner companies use general dentists, Candid only works with orthodontists. And with Candid, the same orthodontist who created your plan is with you from start to finish, so you never have to wonder how you're doing. Your treatment is prescribed and closely monitored remotely by a licensed orthodontist who's an expert in tooth movement. You can book an appointment at a Candid studio near you or do everything from the comfort and convenience of your own home. The average Candid treatment is just 6 months. You'll start seeing results way before that, and it costs thousands less than traditional braces. And with your aligner treatment, you'll even get Candid's teeth whitening free. Candid can help you get the straighter, brighter smile you've always wanted. Right now, you can save $75 on your Candid starter kit when you get started from home. Go to candidco.com/vision and use code VISION. That's candidco.com/vision, code VISION. candidco.com/vision, code VISION. Take advantage of this limited time offer to save. Okay, we're back. Just want to remind you that if you do want to support the podcast and sign up for Patreon, we have instant reaction pods after every game, and that will include tomorrow after the Brentford game. We'll have a live stream before the game, so look for that. You'll see information for that, but it'll be on YouTube, it'll be on Twitch, it'll be on Twitter, I think, all the usual places. And then we do have a merchandise shop where you can get mugs or shirts or stuff with Scott's saying, which is, let me check my model. Paul's saying, which is fuck 'em, of course. Tim's saying, which is, I've just written about that. Clive's saying, he's got 2. He's in the washing machine now, and it's just football, mate. And mine, of course, is, that's why my friends call me Whiskers. We also have stuff for Saka and Tierney and Ben White and Smith Rowe and stuff for the podcast generally. So if you want to go there, it's avpodcastshop.com, or you can just click the shop link on our website, arsenalvisionpodcast.com. Okay, enough of that. For over-under, you guys, what I'd like to do is I'll post the numbers on the spreadsheet. You feel free to just give the over-under now if you want to. We don't need to dive into too many of these. I think if there's ones that are really interesting, I'll stop and we can kind of have a conversation about it. But let's just zip through. Over-under Aubameyang, 16.5 goals. I have under 13. Tim, what do you got?
Under 14.
Clive?
Under, what did I say, 12?
12, yeah. Optimist. Paul?
Under 13.
Damn flop. Scott?
Under 15.
Scott being the high man, and that is encouraging because he's the one actually working off math while the rest of us are just plucking nonsense out of our head. Lacazette goals over under 14.
My model did say he was right about 15.5. So that's just saying.
So the crazy thing is we'd all take that based on our predictions, but I don't think the general public would take that. Funny thing is, sometimes you get a little disconnected from reality. I'm sure most people listening right now are like, 13, 12, what the heck are these guys talking about? He's going to score 20. And I hope he does. I based it off the trend of his expected goals for what that's worth. Lacazette, Scott, over under 14.5.
Well under 6.
6 is less than 14.5. It is fewer than 14.5. Paul?
Under 11.
Clive?
I said under, and I gone 10, but I reckon I should have put 0 because I think he will be sold.
No,
you think he'd be sold, huh? I mean, I'd take that outcome if it means we get another striker. If he isn't sold, do you still think 0?
I'm not playing your games.
Tim, 14.5 goals for Lacazette.
Yeah, under. I've got 9.
I've got 9 as well. Pepe, Elliot, how many do you have? Over under 12.5. Thanks, Elliot. I've gone under with 9. Tim?
I've gone over with 14. That's optimistic, isn't it? But yeah,
it's a lot of goals.
Let's go for it.
Clive?
Yeah, I won up Tim, went 15.
But a lot of goals.
That goes with my getting down the middle shout. Then we'll soon see.
I don't think he's not capable of it. I will say, Clive, that when we get to the assist category, you have Pepe going for the 15 goal, 7 assist season. I suggest that would be takeable for most of us. We would go for that. Paul, over under for Pepe, 12.5.
I went over with 13. He got 10 last year. We didn't play him that much. Why not?
Scott?
I said under at 8. And I think it's really driven by minutes because I think he's going to have a really solid per 90. But I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of rotation in our attacking midfielders, and I just don't think he's going to play enough to get to 12.5.
If Laka stays, you're going to see Laka, Martinelli, ESR, Pepe, and Saka splitting up time in the wide positions, and of course, don't forget Willian. We'll come to him in a moment. Smith Rowe, Scott, goals over under 8.5. That seems high, but
yeah, I said 5 on the under.
Paul?
6.
Clive?
7.
Tim?
Yeah, 7.
Elliot, 7, thanks. Okay, Bukayo Saka, over-under goals, 8.5. Elliot, I went 7 again, so just under. Tim?
Yeah, I've gone just over. I think 9. I think this is where we can get some of the improvement in the goal scoring.
Bukayo Saka being an output player would be really helpful. I think he's an excellent player, but can he develop the end product? I think he can. It would be a huge boost for us. Clive, you've gone just under, it would appear.
Yeah, just under. I still think he's a last pass player at the moment. I think he breaks the game open for everybody else. But hey, man, I'll be happy to be wrong because I've got him as my player of the year. So there you go.
There you go, Paul.
Under 7.
And Scott goes positive, my friend. You want to say it?
I did. I said 10. I think he's going to be... So I think we're going to see a lot of times where we play with two kind of forwards, and I think that a lot of times he's going to be that guy because I think we are going to get Odegaard, so I think we're going to see Odegaard and Smith Rowe behind Aubameyang and Saka a lot as our primary kind of attacking four.
Interesting. Yeah, I also think we could go 4-3-3, and he could play as Nate, in which case he might be more provider than goal scorer, but that's another story. Martinelli, Scott, over under 7.5.
I said 8.
That's over.
So
Paul?
it's just slightly over.
Yeah, 8. I'm bullish on him, but I didn't go too big. I think this could be his year.
Clive?
Yep, just over 8, I think I said.
Tim, you love those Brazilians.
Yeah, I've gone for 9. I think a few of those will be from the bench as well. I'm pretty positive that he'll be able to come on and influence games as well.
So I've gone under at 5, and I want to be clear about something. If he's fit and he plays a lot, like a lot, like if he winds up being one of the regular starters, I think he's a 14 or 15 goal scorer. I am still nervous that he will be one of those players that even if Arteta likes him, between Pepe and Saka and Smith Rowe often playing wide and Aubameyang wide when Lacazette starts and Martinelli coming back late, and so we didn't get a chance to really nail down his position, and maybe the occasional start for a Nelson or probably not, but a Nelson or a Balogun or whatever. I just wonder if Martinelli's a guy who Arteta knows he needs to play, but doesn't play enough. But if he gets the shirt, then look out. I think he can go absolutely nuclear, and I hope it happens. Xhaka, 1.5 goals. I have gone for under with 0. Tim?
I've gone for 3, but that's plain old variance. I wouldn't be surprised by it. I'd be very surprised by more than 3, put it that way.
Clive?
Did I just go under?
You went 1. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's it.
Yep, he's going to match Willian. Paul?
What are we doing?
Xhaka, you went 1. So,
1.
Feel good about it?
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Scott?
Might be a lot.
I said 1.
All right.
He's gonna have one. He's got one Thunder Blast in him. So.
Thunder Bastard. Thomas Partey, goals, 1.5. Scott?
I said 0. I think you'll hit the target like 3 times this year.
Doomy bastard. Paul?
3. Lord knows he'll keep plugging away. He's going to get forward. Assuming he plays plenty, he'll get a couple. He won't stop till he's got a few.
His preseason shooting was a lot more encouraging, and I do think that if he can get forward
he hit
more,
the post off a free kick, didn't he?
Yeah,
well.
He did. He hit the post twice, I think, in preseason. Look, if he gets forward more, he's going to score some goals, I think. I think he is too good not to. The question is how we deploy him. Clive?
Yep, agreed. I've got him down as, what did I say, 4?
Yeah.
I just think he's finding his himself here. I think he's finding his responsibility. I think he tried too hard last year. Well, I say that. I heard that from Arteta's lips, saying he tried too hard, and that's how he got injured. I think he felt the responsibility that he was a major purchase, and he wanted to put his cape on, and he hurt himself, and he tried too many shots, tried to do too much. I think he's going to be calmer and much more productive in a calm way. So, yeah, 4. I'd even go higher. I'd even go 6.
Yeah, well, that would be a lot of goals. Tim, over under 1.5 for Partey?
I went over. I went for 4. I think, look, if he keeps shooting from like 30 yards, one of them will go in. But I do think there's a bit more in him as well in terms of arriving on the edge of the box and for cutbacks and things like that. I think 3 or 4, and I've gone for 4.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone for under with 1, but it's like, it is sort of variance thing. If he gets forward a little more, I think his shooting's good enough. It could be 3. I think it could be 2. I think it could be 1. I think it's in that range. It could be 0. It just sort of depends with those central midfielders. Do they find themselves in a position to get into goal scoring range and shoot from good positions. He's not a free kick taker, so it's going to have to be from open play. He's not really a set piece. He's not a corner kick header guy. The weird thing for Thomas Partey is I don't think of him as aerially dominant for a pretty big physical guy. So we'll just have to see. All right, assists.
Just to rain on the parade really quick there. So, I mean, to get 4 goals, that's like 60 shots. That is, 0.06 per shot, XG per shot. So that's why I'm kind of bearish on all this. Fair
enough. We look, I don't know if you know this about us, Scott, but we just want to do this from the heart, man. This is what your heart says. That's what we're going for. That's why we're doing it with a spreadsheet. So let's go to assists. Scott, we'll stay with you since you spoke up first. Emil Smith-Rowe, 7.5 assists.
I said 8.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
It would be. I think so.
What was our assist leader last season? Do we know?
Does somebody have it open?
I do not have it open.
Yes, I do. Willian.
Oh, right. That's right. Wasn't it like
why
5
didn't
assists?
I know that off the top of my head?
Yeah. No, that is good. The reason I should know that is because there's always that person on Twitter when you criticize Willian who comes with that stat.
Me.
Touche. Smith-Rowe, 7.5 assists, Paul.
Just under 7. I think we underestimate how few goals and assists midfielders generally get, even the good ones, even your Aaron Ramseys, so 7's a good number, and I just think the 7.5 is a little high.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's still a really good number, to your point. Clive, how about you?
To where we are now.
Smith-Rowe assists.
8.
Yep, that would be over, and I think we would take that, certainly. Tim?
Yeah, I've gone for 8 as well. I think it's in that 6 to 9 range. I agree with Paul on the numbers we usually get from this type of player. Yeah. I think 8, and I think that'd be a good number.
Yeah, and I picked 8 as well. And I just want to point out that between me and Tim and Clive, we've all gone for a 7-goal, 8-assist season for Emil Smith-Rowe. Which certainly really sounds high. Like a player of the season candidate to me, doesn't it?
It does. James Maddison is nothing like that.
No, he isn't.
He was close last year. He was on the goals. He was 8-4 or 8-5 or something like that. That's a lot.
Are you questioning my guessing? Are you, Paul?
No. I went with the same thing. I went with 8 and 7. But my point is, I picked him as player of the season. So I'm saying, if you guys are right with me and he gets 7 goals and 8 assists, I think he's probably going to be player of the season. But that's okay. We can get to Bukayo Saka, who's also slated for a huge season, according to our podcast. I put his assists over under at 6.5, and I have him over at 7. Tim?
Yeah, I've got him as 8 as well. Again, I'd put him in that 6 to 9 range, and I've gone high on a lot of these in that kind of range, so I've gone for 8.
Clive?
What did I say?
10.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
We've got Saka, Bukayo Saka. I just don't think you understand.
I don't think it's a big deal.
Mikel Arteta's man. He's better than Ozil.
10's a lot of assists.
10 is Ozilian. It really is.
He's my player of the season, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, you've got him going 10 assists and 7 goals, so we would take that, I think. Look, I think given some of our player predictions, maybe we needed a top 4 shout in here somewhere. Paul, over under 7.5. Pardon me, 6.5.
Just over, because he's great and that's kind of his job. So I think 7's doable. I went with 7.
Scott?
I said 8, and I look at this and think that Saka's probably going to end up the player of the season if he hits my prediction, because I have 10
goals,
and
8 assists. I mean, that's pretty damn good. We've got some good. You know what, though, guys? Can we just stop for a second and admire the fact that our academy has produced the kind of players? And I realize we're all Arsenal fans and we're looking at it through Arsenal lenses, but where we realistically are sitting here saying they could get 10 goals and 8 assists or 7 goals and 8 assists. And then we've got a guy in Martinelli that some of us are saying, 9 goals, 5 assists, 9 goals, 6 assists. Like, that's the kind of young talent you need to really move the needle. So it is pretty exciting. Let's go to Martinelli. Pepe assists. I said 4.5, Scott.
I went on 4 because I think it's just a minutes thing for me, because I think he's not going to be. I think he's going to be about the same as he had last year, and I think that's just really going to hurt the overall numbers, the hounding numbers. But I think the rate stats are going to be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing is, so I don't know, guys, if you know this, but I think he had 1 assist last season. Now, the seasons prior to that, he was more assisty. but his creative numbers, key passes, XA, like all that, were terrible last season. So I didn't know where to set this number. So if you're listening at home and you're thinking, or wherever you listen, you could be listening anywhere, and thinking that number sounds super low, he had 1 assist last season, so it would be a big improvement. Paul, what do you got? Over, under 4.5 for Pepe?
That is a great question. I have over. I went with 5, marginally over. Look, you can't get 1 assist as an attacker. I don't know how he did it last year. You have to actually try not to pass to other players when you're in the attacking
Especially when you take
line.
corners and stuff, although we were terrible at those, to be fair.
And like, he still puts in good crosses and stuff. Like, it's just not, it's a mathematical quirk that he has 1 assist. He'll be a bit more integrated. He'll play a bit more, is my hope and theory. Yeah, 5.
Okay. Clive, how about you? Nicola Pepe assists, over, under 4.5.
Over. I said 7. Did I say
7, yeah. So just the 6 more than last season. Tim, over, under 4.5?
I've gone just under 4. I just don't. I agree with Paul on like 1 assist last season being a bit freaky, but I don't see him as much of an assister. And I think part of the reason he's playing better is because we understand that now. So I'm big on him for goals, but not for assists.
Yeah,
Can I also add, without Willian, there's a bunch of corners to be taken.
That was my shout. I was just thinking about dead balls.
He could easily get 2 off dead balls, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and it does look like we're working on set pieces a little differently from an attacking standpoint. Granted, Xhaka getting a headed goal from a corner in preseason. I have Pepe over at 7 assists. I went a little low on his goals at 9. I think 7 assists, though, not that 9 is low. I think a 9-goal, 7-assist season is good. Pepe finished last season on fire. I don't think he's been brilliant in preseason, but he's had some moments, and I do think he's a guy that, to Scott's point, if he gets the minutes, I just think there's too much end product in him to miss it. Martinelli assists over under 3.5. I went under at 2. Once again, I think Martinelli's biggest problem in terms of really lighting it up an end product is just playing time. So I'm using the Scott's Pepe excuse with my Martinelli prediction. Clive, over under 3.5 for Martinelli?
Just touch over. Again, I just goes alongside what I said about him coming out this year. But him coming out this year is not dependent only on him, as we all know. He needs to get selected, so just a little bit over.
Yep. You went with 5, so just the 9 goals and 5 assists for Martinelli this season. Tim, Martinelli over under 3.5 assists.
Yeah, I've gone for 5. I think he'll be in that range, but I've gone for 5 just because he makes stuff happen and he gets the ball in the air. I think there'll be some like scrappy assists. Like, Peter Crouch, lots of assists in his career, right? Not a particularly creative player, but he's a guy that made things happen. I view Martinelli the same. But yes, of course, it would depend on how much playing time, and this is possibly an optimistic projection.
Martinelli is an all-action box chaos player, right? Like, he wants the ball inside the box, and anyone who is that maniacally driven to get the ball inside the box is going to produce end product almost by accident at times. Okay, so Paul, what do you got for the over-under 3.5 assists for Martinelli?
I'm big on Martinelli. I'm going with 6. Didn't need to. He's over. Apart from all the chaos, he puts in a bloody good cross. So he'll get into the box. He'll make shit happen. As long as he gets some minutes, and he must. Otherwise, his career and Arsenal will separate. He's going to have a big season. He's going to get much more playing time, and he'll get 6 assists.
I'm going to skip the next 2. Martinelli for you, Scott, over under. I wanted to skip you because it was terrible.
It's okay. I did say 1, and I think it's really just mostly because I think his ask is going to be go score goals kind of thing. So I think he's going to be a guy that comes on in the last 15, 20 minutes of games as his primary role, and he's going to be asked to score goals, not necessarily set up everybody else.
I have Xhaka and Partey next. We're going to skip them. You can read them on the spreadsheet if you want, but suffice it to say, people had them around 2 or 3 assists total. I had Xhaka 0, Partey 2, and roughly everyone was in that range. We'll go to Tierney. I think the next 2 are really the important ones because I think there's real opportunity here. I set the over-under on Tierney at 9.5, which I realize is way too high probably, but fullbacks can do that. I went just under at 9, which would still be regarded as a great season. And you know what? I'm going to adjust this, guys, down to 7.5 just because I think people will read this spreadsheet at the end of the season and be like, oh, they were all disappointed by him, which is ridiculous. So I'm going to adjust this down to 7.5, but I'm going to keep my number where it is. I have him over at 9. Tim, Tierney assists.
I think, I think 5. I think if you throw in like pre-assists and XG chain or something like that, he'll be very, very high.
He'll cause a lot of goals, but he won't
exactly, yeah. But the actual times that it will be him to the guy who scores the goal, I think will be just slightly lower. He will be among our most creative players, but probably not quite in that metric.
Yep, Clive.
I've gone 7. Although I just adjusted that. I mean, I think I could even go a little bit lower, and it's not because he won't play well. Just so I think everyone knows he's coming over the hill, and I think he's going to get marked a lot. So, but yeah, 7. No drama. He's a good player. Sometimes he can't be stopped, so that'll do.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that too. If you think he's going to have the season I do with 9 assists, I probably need to rethink Aubameyang or Lacazette's goal totals. To be fair. Okay, Paul, what do you got?
5, so that's under same logic as Tim's. He'll do a lot of pre-assisting, create a lot of opportunities. Won't necessarily be the assister.
The assist, whose sister will he not be, out of curiosity?
Chambers? I don't know.
He won't be Chambers' sister. Okay, Scott, how many for Tierney?
I got 8 for him, and I think that's kind of just looking at it. I think he's going to be about a 1 every 4 games kind of assist person. So I think he might be our main creative guy over on the left, because I think that side's going to be one of the forwards / Aubameyang area. So I think it's going to be a good season for him, and I think this is also why he's my player of the season. Yeah,
I had to pick a right back, so I picked Chambers, and I had to pick an over/under, and I went with 4.5 assists. He does put in a nice cross. Where do you have him at, Scott?
I got 3, because I think the right side's going to be a little bit more reserved.
Okay, fair enough. Paul?
Given the uncertainty around who will be doing all the right backing, I went with 4, which is still an okay number.
Yeah, I think it's a great number.
And still the same logic as with Tierney, which is he still may create a lot. He'll just be pre-assisting quite a bit.
See, it's funny. I would say I think he will be less important to our build-up and our play generally than Tierney, but I think his good crossing may be enough to snaffle him some assists, even when we're not playing great. Clive, you're not as big a fan.
No, I think he's our best right back at the moment for this team, shall we say? So
high praise indeed.
Yeah, but I would shoot them all. Do you know what I mean? So
there you go.
So
getting mixed messages there, Clive.
So yeah, I do like Chambers' timing and what he knows what he's doing. He knows what he is. He knows what he's doing. So he's got 3. That's fine.
Okay, if we were allowed to play all 4 right backs at the same time without it being deducted from our total 11, I think that could go really well for us. Okay, Tim, over under 4.5 assists for Chambers.
I've gone for 3. I think that Chambers will be the main right back. I do think that, assuming he stays, Bellerin will eat into some of his minutes as well. I think he'll play.
Yeah, I've gone for 5, and I think it really is as simple as, even if he's not playing great, I think the quality of his crosses is enough that if he plays 30 games, I think he can get 5 assists just by putting in some good crosses, and good enough. Okay, we're going to finish now with the miscellaneous section, and I think some of the most important questions that we have for the season are in this section. But since we're running sort of long, we won't stop and talk about all of them, just the ones that are important. So we'll start with Martinelli, Premier League starts. Oh, by the way, I should point out, these numbers are not all comps numbers. These numbers are league-only numbers. So, does that change anybody? Did anybody think I meant all comps?
No.
Maybe, yeah. I might revise a couple down slightly. To
be fair, there's not much comps to play. Like, a lot of our starters won't play in the League Cup. So if we don't have a great FA Cup campaign, you're literally talking about 2 games.
Agree. I wouldn't revise them too much, but maybe slightly.
Okay, there's a hedge there if you want. So Martinelli, Premier League starts 9.5 over under. Scott, I'll start with you. What do you got?
I got 9. I think it's just going to be a numbers game.
Yep. What about you, Paul?
I'm going big. I think it's a breakout season. This is very high. I'm going with 15.
I mean, I don't think it's high enough, candidly. Like, I don't think it's high. If you said to me, who should start 20 games on the left wing for Arsenal in the Premier League? Martinelli would be my guy. So I don't think you've gone big. If he's, like, the funny thing is, Paul, if he's given the chance, I don't think 15 is high. I think 15 is low. I don't know how to shake out that.
Let me tell you my logic that I haven't thought all the way through, which is there's going to be a shake-up in our front line this year. Arteta is not necessarily going to be our manager at the end of the year if we don't make some changes, and I think one of those changes will create the opportunity for Martinelli to be a big factor this year. Shit's going to go down in our front line.
Fair enough. Someone's anxious and clicking their pen. Please stop doing that.
That was me. Sorry.
Okay. You were anxious. Fair. Well, I like your prediction. I hope it's right. I hope it's low. When we get to mine, you'll see that I am a doomy bastard. Once again, as usual, Clive, over under 9.5 starts for Martinelli in the Premier League.
Well, I had 10. I went down. I've gone back to 10. And I'm now thinking...
Up and down like the Assyrian Empire.
Yeah, I care little about these numbers, by the way. But I do think... If I'm going to back the fact that I think Martinelli is going to be the breakout, I should have gone higher. So although I'm saying 10, I actually think it could be closer to 15, even closer to 20. But there you go.
I honestly, you've just made my day. I hope that is what happens. Tim, what do you got?
I've got 9. The reason I've gone that low, I guess, I agree with you. I'd love it if it was 20 or whatever. I think the problem for Martinelli is not his own talent or ability. He's very similar to Pepe and Aubameyang. And I think that's the problem that Arteta has to grapple with, that his 3 best goal scorers can't play together. So I think Martinelli will do a lot of super subbing. But on the other hand, I agree with you, that left wing spot is open. I really do. Like, who's Arsenal's left winger? Like, I think it'll end up being Smith Rowe, because I think we'll sign Ødegaard, but it's not nailed down by any means.
Well, and this is the problem. And I think it's a problem Arteta has to solve. I think he likes technical, connective players more than he likes end product monsters, right? I mean, he's learning to like Pepe, but he likes Saka better. And he might be learning to like Martinelli, but I think he likes Smith Rowe better out on the wing. At some point, you got to have a guy who is an end product monster. And I just think Martinelli has the ability to do the thing that we need done the most. But we saw in that, was it the Manchester United game where he got subbed at halftime, I believe? Because he just wouldn't stand where Arteta wanted him to stand, wasn't, tactically, positionally what he wants him to be. If he can get on the same page with him, then I think we could be somewhere. I will let you know that I've gone for 7, by the way. And I do think every year, every season, there's that thing that Twitter tears itself apart and everybody's arguing and the Discord is a mess. I'm worried that this season it could be the Martinelli not starting enough debate. I will also say the other thing is Marseille games are not going to be fun for Arsenal Twitter this season with Guendouzi and Saliba there, because it's going to be a lot of point scoring and arguing. But hopefully we're just too caught up with how great Arsenal are playing.
Can I just say that the more important metric for Martinelli is appearances rather than starts. I think he's going to get a lot of appearances. He may not start as many as we hope, but if he's appearing in a lot of games, I think he'll be fine.
Okay.
And I think that's the most important thing.
And that is a fair point. I mean, we sometimes forget that substitutions are allowed, as sometimes the coaches do as well. So, Clive, Thomas Partey starts in the Premier League, over under 30.5.
I went just under, only because he's got his leg in a boot right now. So I think he's going to pick up the odd little thing. Well, to be honest, he wasn't in no danger of picking up anything until he got scythed down. Yeah,
that's not injury prone. That is a bad challenge, right? Yeah. Like if I take a crowbar to your knee, you're not injury prone.
Yeah, and he just got his foot caught under him, and he's done for a month or two. So yeah, I think we need to manage him for certain games, and we've got potential of doing that now with Lokonga being there. So we should sit him before the biggest moments, in the biggest time, and then towards the last third of the season. So I've just gone for just under 30.
Yeah. Okay. Tim, I realized that this was one I added, so you don't have it written down, but why don't you tell me over under 30.5 starts for Thomas Partey?
Just under. No, actually, I picked him as player of the season. I'm going to say just over. I think 31, 32. I think it will be in that range.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be excellent. I do think that some of how our season shakes out depends on him being there. And whether you're a huge Partey believer or even a little bit of a Partey skeptic, I don't think it can be debated based on where our midfield is right now that we need him playing that level of games. Paul, how many? Over under 30.5.
26 under. AFCON, couple of niggles, won't join us for a little while, and we won't want to rush him because Lokonga.
Yeah, okay. I went under at 28. I do think this is looking like a grade 2 high ankle sprain back after the international break. I think the key here is, of course, bring him back when he's totally, totally ready and not a day sooner, because we have seen in other sports and in this sport. I mean, I think Clive made the point a couple seasons back, maybe it was Tim, when Lacazette had that ankle sprain in preseason. Basically wasn't the same the rest of the season. I think it was 2 seasons ago. People were surprised that he was a little bit better last season. And Tim, I think you rightly pointed out, it was that ankle sprain. Cannot afford to have Partey's season sort of lost or diminished because of this. So they have to really manage it right. Scott, over under 30.5 Premier League starts for Thomas Partey.
I said 25 because, I mean, he's missing 3 here. He's going to miss 3 for AFCON. There's going to be a handful that he kind of misses just for rest and rotation during the pretty grueling schedule. So I think 25. But I think he's going to have 25 really good starts. Well,
then I've got good news for Tim. If he misses 3 here and 3 for the AFCON, Tim, he has to start every single remaining Premier League game for him to hit your projection. So no problem. No pressure. No pressure, Thomas. Lakanga Premier League starts, Scott, over under 11.5.
I said 18. I think he's going to play basically all of El Neni's starts last year.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that is a lot. Paul, over under, what did I say? 11.5 Premier League starts.
I'm going to do just under. I feel like over, but there's no way between him and Partey. There's no way El Neni plays 0 starts and Xhaka won't miss more than a couple of games. So there's a riddle there we haven't solved unless we send...
Remember, Xhaka's going to flop.
Yeah. But to flop, he'll have to play for a while. We have... When we add up our numbers, I don't think we've taken account of El Neni. He's not going to play 1 or 3 or 4 or 5 games.
I think he might.
Starter.
I think he might.
Well, that would be good. Mm-hmm. Anyway, under 11.
Yep. Tim, over under 11.5 for Lakanga.
I've gone just over with 12, and my rationale for that is I think he will become the backup for both Xhaka and Partey.
Totally agree. Yep.
Yeah, and El Neni will get phased out.
I think there may be formations where all 3 of them play also. Clive, over under 11.5.
I'll say 10.
Yep. I think that's good. And I have gone for 17. I think Shaq is getting older. He's been an ever-present, but I think this may be a season where he played over the summer. He can't stay fit every season, all season. Can he? Maybe a few injuries for Shaq.
He's the best trainer in the club, got the best numbers. He's incredible. Look at some old films of him.
Look, he's in immaculate shape, but nobody's fit for 38 games every single season, and he has been. I mean, so there's got to be a few games missed in there.
Ben White is.
Well, right, true. Okay.
And that's what happened to Cazorla as well, by the way. He was super fit for 4 or 5 years. Until he wasn't. And
then did that end really well? As far as I remember, it ended really well. Pablo Mari, Premier League starts over under 10.5. I've gone just over at 11. Clive?
Yeah, I've gone over 15. I don't see... He'll be fine. I know you've got the pre-season trauma going through your head, but trust me, he's a steady Eddie, and he'll be fine.
We will be debating that on podcasts in the future, and from the sounds of things, 15 times. Tim?
10.
Yeah, I would take 10 more than 15. Paul?
15. We won't be playing the way we did in pre-season. He won't be as isolated. We'll start to remember when Elliot said, you know what, I think Pablo Mari might actually be good. Remember that?
Yeah. But remember, when I say something, that's usually when it goes back the other direction. Scott?
I said 6. I think we're going to have a pretty settled back 2, and I think it's going to be Gabriel and White.
Would take. Aubameyang Premier League center forward starts 20.5, Scott.
At 25. I think he's going to be the guy.
Paul?
20. I think for a number of reasons. Got a little bit of AFCON, a little bit of injury, Lacazette, and maybe some other twists and turns of Arteta fiddling with other options. Him and his buddy over at City may try some creative things. I think we're going to struggle in the front line is the answer. And I think that will mean that Aubameyang, we will start to experiment with other approaches than Aubameyang. Plus, we might actually bring in an additional striker now or in January. So, yeah, I'm a bit gloomy on my top scorer.
Yep, we've moved into the section of the podcast where there's literally just music playing in the background. But if anyone's still with us, that's a good sign. We're wrapping up here, I promise. Center forward starts for Aubameyang, 20.5. Clive, over under?
What did I say, 20?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still think he's a man, but when Lacazette gets sold, that could go up.
You said 25.
25, yeah.
Did I say 25? There you go. As per Scott.
There you go. Tim?
I've gone for 23. I toyed with putting Lacazette as my flop of the season. I've got a feeling he's a player who might end up getting phased out as well. But when I say 23, I'm not necessarily convinced that Aubameyang will play 90 minutes as a striker in those games. I think he might start them and then shift over to the left wing or just come off for Lacazette.
It is interesting that he is our highest paid player. He is our star striker, and none of us have him playing more than, 2/3 of the games at striker, which is interesting. I have him at 20. So we will finish with 2 now. There are a couple other on here that we're not going to cover. Willian minutes, 800. We all went under. Goals from midfield, I said it at 5.5. Everyone went 5 or fewer. To be fair, Tim had 8, but it's not clear what midfield means, so that's a dumb question. And we're going to go with the last 2. St. Totteringham's Day, yes or no? Clive?
Yes, I think we are a couple of clubs in a little bit of turmoil, but we understand our position a little bit more than they do. And they're about to lose a talisman, and the recovery from that will be interesting. So, yes.
Yeah, the Harry Kane situation combined with a very conservative coach. I don't see them getting the goals they need. I said yes as well. Tim?
Yeah, definitely yes. I for the same reasons as you. Also, I think really for the last 7 or 8 years, Arsenal and Tottenham have been basically the same, and it's been variance that's decided it. And what happened was for 3 or 4 years, the variance went our way, and now it's all gone back the other way, and it's gone Tottenham's way. And I just think, perhaps unscientifically, that it's due to come back our way.
When you have the league leader in assists and the league leader in goals, and they're the same player, and you lose that player, that's not a good sign, and it's hard to replace. Paul, Totteringham's Day?
Yes, but just about. I think Nuno's good, and I think Tottenham will be a lot better than they were last season. I think it's going to be really close, but we'll do it.
I think he's a tailor-made mid-table coach because I just don't know, and you could level this about our coach, I don't know that he plays to score enough goals to get teams into the upper echelon of the league. St. Totteringham's Day, Scott, yes or no?
I said yes. I think it's going to happen. They got the Conference League, so they're going to be traveling all over Europe, and that's going to put a wrench in their rotations. And so I think Arsenal will just be fresher, even though we're about equal in talent.
Okay, this is the last one. Scott, Arteta, Arsenal manager for the 2022-2023 season. Will he be manager next season?
Yeah, we're coming in 5th.
Okay. Paul?
Yes, he will.
Clive?
Trust the process, baby.
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah, I've got us as 5th, and I think that will be enough for him to keep his job. And also, I don't think there are fewer managers getting sacked at the moment because of COVID, and there's a reason for that. People don't want to pay managers out. The interesting question for me is next summer, we then have to have the conversation about, assuming he stays, whether his contract is extended, because I think his contract goes to 2023. So maybe that's a more interesting, not a more interesting, but perhaps if we have the question, do you think Arteta will sign a new contract? But yeah, I think he'll be here.
I went for no. And partly just because no one else did. I think we have every chance to finish 5th and 6th and every chance to finish 7th and 8th. And I think if the former happens, he'll stay. But I don't think he can survive a 7th or 8th place finish. Not with the money we're spending, not with the money we're losing, not with what our ambitions are, even if you say that Stan doesn't have any ambitions. I think it would take a calamity for Stan to act. So I think 5th or 6th would keep him in his job. But seeing that well, let me ask you this, Scott. What is the percentage, according to your model, that we finish outside the top 6?
It's like 50%.
So there you go. So if it's 50% that we finish in it and 50% out of it, I'd say it's 50-50 that he keeps his job. I don't think with a year left on his deal, having to confront, do we re-sign him or do we say this is it and shake hands and move on? I think a 7th or 8th place or lower finish sees him go. And that's 50-50. So I think there's a 50% chance he stays and has a good season. I think there's a 50% chance he can't quite get into that group. And since I don't see us as distanced from any of those teams, Leeds, Villa, West Ham, Everton, Spurs, Leicester, if Spurs and Leicester finish above us, which isn't, no one would say that would be crazy. I think that's it for Arteta. We got to get ahead of one of them. And that's not a given. So I've gone for no, just as a contrarian play on the 50-50 shot there. But I certainly hope that that's not how it goes. Look, if you're new to this podcast, this is what we do. Every episode, we just read from a Google Sheet. It's great. 2 hours of just reading numbers off a Google Sheet. You don't want to miss an episode. I hope you've enjoyed this. I know it is a weird way to do the season preview, but it gets our ideas on paper, nails our colors to the mast. They'll be up on the website. And from there, we go into the season, and where there'll be actual substantive analysis in much shorter form. Instead of 2 hours, there'll be like an hour and 47 minutes. So be prepared for that. I hope you will join us on Patreon if you'd like, for our instant reaction pods, our scouting videos, our rewatches, and all the other things we have planned. I hope you join us throughout the season on this stream as we move into our 6th season, and hopefully a great season for Arsenal, a great season for you, and a great season for us here at the Arsenal Vision Podcast. Paul's on Twitter. Pause my pants. Thanks, pause.
Woohoo.
Scott's on Twitter at, that's a good sign, _that_crap. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you so much.
Going great. When it's going great.com. Tim's on Twitter. Roberto. Thanks, Tim. That's a bit.
My pleasure as always.
That was a bit. I knew that was a bit. Clive's on Twitter. Clive AOC. Thank you, Clive.
Thank you very much.
My name is Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. Live stream tomorrow before the game. Live stream 2 hours of us being a little bit silly and celebrating a new season. I raise a glass to Arsenal, to Arteta, to his boys, to you, to your family, to all the Arsenal fans globally who look forward to a good season. Hope springs eternal. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, Brentford 0.